While we're waiting for our last folks to join, great to see some Presidential Innovation Fellows, our friends in the New York City's Mayor's Office of the CTO, Seamus, hello, an old AGL friend, folks joining from all over the country. This is great. Another Georgetown pal, hello, Dan. Raylene from US Digital Response, who's, maybe on vacation. Hey, Raylene. Folks, lots of folks from the middle of the country, which is always nice. Colorado and North Carolina and PA and Virginia. This is great. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. We'd like to encourage you to keep introducing yourself in the chat if you haven't yet, and keep the conversation going. This is going to be a fairly informal event. We're just really excited to have this great community together to think about how we can support one another and grow. So in terms of Zoom practices, we've got everyone muted. So if you'd like to speak at some point when we'll open it up for a Q&A in the future, just go ahead and raise your hand. We're going to go ahead and keep everyone muted. But if you do eventually want to speak when we get to that point in the show, raise your hand. So today, we are looking forward to a conversation about the evolving field of people who work in and with governments to deliver services and carry out missions using leading edge practices and technology. We're here thanks to the leadership of Agile Government Leaders, AGL, an organization we'll hear more about shortly and which has been working on an evolution of its own. My organization is the Beck Center for Social Impact and Innovation at Georgetown University. We've been partnered with AGL to conduct research and consider the needs of this evolving field. Our effort is led by our fellow Jen Noina. Hey, Jen. You'll hear from Jen shortly. And her goal has been to really understand the field better in order to provide the support people like us are looking for in career development and growth. This field has been around for some time, but it's still in early days by comparison to other sectors. We might call it civic tech, some of us OGs, sometimes digital government, it's digital service delivery, it's sometimes public interest technology. You know, we kind of have a lot of ways of framing this work, and we think they're all great. What we think they have in common, even as the terminology evolves, is that those of us who show up to do this work often identify as technologists who are using our skills to promote and advance the public good. So today we are here to get started co-creating the next phase of an organization to support our ecosystem, whatever we call ourselves, to consider how we can really grow and evolve as a field and be supported as we go. And so for today, we'll be covering 4 areas, and here's our agenda. We're first going to give some organizational updates and background on what we've been working on over the past year. We'll also then share some opportunities for everyone here to get involved, as well as the broader community. We, of course, know the whole field is not represented on this Zoom call today. We also will have a little time for a co-design activity for folks to share out what you're working on that might be helpful to others, little needs and offers, and get to know each other. So we'll have some breakouts and some small group time. And then as we wrap up, we want to be sure we share some actionable next steps and send you off with some things to do if you're interested in staying engaged and involved. So now I'll introduce Aaron Pava, who's the founder and president of AGL. Aaron, in his day job, is the co-founder and chief experience officer of Civic Actions, a company you may have heard of. It's part of the Digital Services Coalition. And Aaron also spent some time with the US Digital Service as well. So Aaron, I'll hand it over to you to take it away. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Corey, and welcome everyone. I am excited to be sharing some of the big organizational updates that we've been working on and what we've been up to over the last year. But first, let me introduce the we that we're referring to. So over the last year or so, this team has been working together to consider the future of Agile Government Leaders, AGL. And a lot of you might recognize these faces as the current board and some longtime contributors of AGL, Melinda, Stephanie, Anne, Mark, Bill, Robin, Corey, and myself. And in addition, over the last 9 months, we've been honored to work with Jen Noina of the Public Interest Technology Workforce Fellow at the Beck Center at Georgetown. And so this last year, in the absence of in-person events due to COVID, we were really given this space to step back and reassess AGL and the greater needs of the community. All of us have seen firsthand how this field has continued to evolve and shift, as Corey was mentioning, all the different ways that we describe the kind of work and the community that we're inside of. And in true Agile and iterative fashion, we believe it's our responsibility to evolve as well. So where I'd like to start is by giving a brief history of AGL for those that might be unfamiliar, and then we could jump into some of the findings of our research. So AGL was first conceived as an idea to help us identify and connect the civic professionals that wanted to help bring Agile to the public sector. At the time, we really recognized this lack of resources and community around the idea of Agile in government. But we also clearly understood the benefits and what it could bring to program and service delivery. We also knew that it would be a huge lift and it would require fundamental shifts in procurement and contracting and really government culture overall. So while AGL has been around since 2014, it was only a few years ago that we became a 501c6 member-based nonprofit that was supported by individual members in both the government sector and in the government and the private sector. So the goal of the organization has been to help chart this path forward for government transformation and digital services by modernizing government. And we approach this work primarily through building and sharing resources, online events, and recently in-person. The AGL community has grown to include nearly 3,000 federal, state, and local technology professionals, in private sector representatives, and civic activists from all across the United States and the world. And there's been a much smaller group that have been active members who have set the direction of the organization and voting on important matters like board leadership and the priorities. So 2019 was really a breakout year for AGL. We began to have real momentum with our AGL summits, and we did an event in Sacramento, we did an event in Washington, DC. In addition, we are also regularly hosting our online events through AGL Live and our webinar series. And in January of 2020, the AGL board decided to embark on a research project to better understand the interests of its members and the community. There was a decision made in part whether or not the organization was appropriately positioned around Agile in government, and if that still met the needs of the community. However, that research project paralleled the onset of the COVID pandemic, and we began to face the same predicament that others faced, primarily how to compensate for this ability to meet in person, which was really starting to work for us. And we also found it an appropriate time to consider how to build a sustainable model for AGL, which was still an unresolved question after launching the association. Then in September, we are honored to partner with Georgetown's Beck Center to begin to design and execute a research project to better understand career development needs of those that are in this field of digital service and identify the obstacles of innovation careers in government, which helped us lead to this path forward. So the research that we embarked on was really focused on answering these primary questions. Who is in the field and what are their needs? What are the existing organizations that are already here in a similar space as us? And what can we do to best support people in this field? So one of the most important things to us is we really wanted to build upon and amplify the work that so many others are doing in the field. So in our landscape analysis, we looked to identify where there were gaps and where AGL and or the organization that we could become fit into this field. There's so many incredible organizations, and many of us are a part of them. Code for America, ACT, Agile Alliance, and others. And some of these organizations vary from being really informal, where membership is loosely based. I mean, it could just be like a Slack community, to more formal organization with high membership dues. And there's also the distinction, some are more public or open than others, and some are more private or closed communities. Our aim was really to see if there was a need that wasn't being met and where we as an organization fit to this landscape. And part of that research illuminated that there was already so many amazing opportunities to support people that are in this field, yet for many of us, we don't necessarily feel that we have a home-based community. And all of this research really led to our top 3 insights, which I'd like to share with you now. So our first insight was the need to formalize training around the necessary skills for professionals. So one research interviewee expressed it like this: I'd like to see a center of excellence for training, for education, information sharing, and collaboration for the civic tech leaders in government. This is a sentiment we actually heard a lot. The next insight was really about community building. We saw a clear need to facilitate community building and networking opportunities. And as one research quote expressed, one of the toughest things is getting connected with governments outside of our local area. It would be exciting if there were more people or organizations looking to facilitate these connections, and we couldn't agree more. And last, our third big insight was around supporting junior professionals that are new to civic tech, namely a need to help cultivate and grow this next generation of professionals. Our research illuminated the desire to see more support for folks that are early in their career who are interested in public interest technology. So these big insights, along with our landscape analysis, gave us a better understanding of the needs of the community, and also led us to the conclusion that AGL was also ready for its next evolution. So today, we're excited to introduce you to Technologists for Public Good. So we are a professional association that's here to provide the skills, the tools, and the resources needed to adopt and evangelize the new ways of working. This organization is here to support and connect the people who are improving how public services are delivered through digital. And we're united by this common passion to build government services that are inclusive, that are equitable, and that are accessible to everyone. And we plan to use this network to find each other and share knowledge and best practices, foster collaboration and partnerships, and build capacity among public and private sector practitioners. Now, with regards to the new name, I want to offer big thanks to everyone who may have participated in our polls about renaming the organization. We know that this could be a charged issue, and there's lots of feelings about this on all sides. As we explored the potential name change, we had a short list of options that we had been batting about informally. However, as it turned out, the name was actually suggested by someone in our community through our polling, and it really resonated with us, and it's how we see ourselves and describe ourselves. So with the new name comes a new mission, and we're proud to share that. Our mission is to power the people who are reimagining how government serves the public. So as I mentioned earlier, in our research, there were really essentially two types of organizations. One that's a bit more formal, a professional association, and then there's the community ones. We're envisioning our organization as really a mix between these two. We see the value in a balanced approach between a professional association, which may be able to offer certification or educational credits, but could also act more in an informal way for the community to network and share knowledge through meetups and events. So after much reflection and research, we redefined our values and what we stand for, and I'm excited to share those with you today. So through community, we can provide a safe and neutral space where people can find and learn from one another across government and industry. And as individual practitioners with a common goal of helping government work better, we'll encourage authentic connections and provide value to everyone. Through collaboration, we'll create opportunities for people to work together across organizations and disciplines on efforts that help improve public service outcomes. And we encourage an inclusive and equitable approach to collaboration, where each person's voice is heard and it's valued. With knowledge sharing, we can provide avenues for sharing lessons learned, and best practices, giving change makers the ability to learn what's working and what's not so they can improve on things in their organizations. And we encourage openness and transparency for easier transfer of knowledge as a paradigm for an open and accountable government. Through capacity building, we can provide opportunities for people to learn new skills and modernize the ways of working that can apply to their daily jobs. So we encourage agile and human-centered practices that help government agencies become more efficient and resilient, delivering services that meet people where they are. And last, by being groundbreaking. We cultivate the field of modern government digital services at a time when services and digital have become inseparable. We provide a platform for conversations that shape the future of service delivery, elevating the voices of those who are daring to do things differently. And we encourage the use of data-driven decision-making to drive tangible improvements over innovation for its own sake. So these are our values, our mission, our new name. And with that, I'd love to enroll you to get involved.
Thanks, Aaron. So my name is Robin Thodangal. I am one of the board members. By way of introduction, I am the CTO for the National Gallery of Art. So as Aaron was mentioning and Corey was mentioning, we are excited to share where we are and where we want to take the organization forward. And as you can see, when I was looking through the chat, each of you are leaders in some aspects of technology for public good. So I'm sure you are asking the question, okay, now I like the mission, I want to be a part of this organization, how can I get involved? So let me give you some avenues that I think you can start getting involved starting from today. And there are some ways you can be a bit more involved in the organization. So of course, we want each of you to be a part of the community so that we can build this community and make sure that this field has a definition of who we are and how we are making a better world for everybody else. Now, another way you can be a part of the organization is, of course, being a member of the organization. Now, another way you can be a part of the organization, like me, is you start becoming a board of the directors. And that one involves a bit more of hands-on ability to share the vision or to some extent shape the vision of the organization. So people who are really interested in the topic, I really would love you to look into the option of becoming a board member so that you can be with us to shape the organization and take the organization to the next level. Now, if you don't think like you have the time commitment to be a board of director, another area is where I think Jen or Melissa and Stephanie is going to talk about is we are going to build specific communities and committees focused on different aspects of developing digital services. So please be a part of that community, or even you can be the lead for that committee. Now, if this is also too much involving, we can go back to the whole idea of being a part of the digital world by interacting us through Slack or other Twitter or other social media platforms. And what we want to do is, as a part of this launch, we want to build out an events calendar so that you can understand, and to some extent, you can post events that is happening in your vicinity that might be of interest for the community. And to going back what Aaron was referring, one of the things that we heard from multiple people that we interviewed was the need for building a community. So one of the areas that we really want to work on is creating that sense of community and making sure that people understand that there is somebody else probably in the other coast trying to do the same thing. So please make sure you are a part of the events calendar or add events that might be of interesting to you. And of course, we know that we haven't thought through all the different aspects of this problem. So please be open with us on how we can improve and what we have done right or what we could do improve on to make this organization a better organization, to some extent an organization of all of you. Next slide, please, Jen. So what would the membership means or membership includes? And I think we talked about what are some of the key areas that came out of the interviews that we did. So with that, I think what we want to do is, as a part of this organization, we want to make sure that this being a part of this group, you can develop as a professional in this area. Also, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to show your leadership and thereby helping shape the organization or the field for the incoming junior technologists to be a part of this public good aspect. And finally, we also want to make sure that, personally, one of my goals is there is almost 92 participants. I'm sure that I probably don't know half of the people in the call. So I would love to learn who you are and what you are doing and what challenges you have so that we can share and help each other on building a community that is thriving in the country. And finally, as you are aware of, I'm sure that some of you are trying to find out, I want to build this or I'm missing this aspect of civic tech. So we want to create that safe space where people can talk about even what kind of job opportunities are there out there for you to look for the next opportunity. So that's the 4 areas that we are currently thinking about from the membership standpoint. And going back to my previous slide, please let us know if we have missed anything, any aspect is missing with respect to this one. Next slide, please, Jen. So now coming back to the board, we have a board, and we are. I personally am sad to see that we have 3 people that is going to roll off the board. One is Melinda and Mark, and then Anne. And I remember Melinda being a really nice person I met in the first beginning days of being a part of this board, and she welcomed me. She sent me all the different things I have to sign up to become a part of the community. So Melinda, we will definitely miss you as a part of the board. I hope that you stay engaged with the community. And Mark, another amazing person that I was able to work with as a part of the board. Whenever I have any questions regarding the legal aspect of the organization, I know that I can call up Mark and he will tell me more than I should know to tackle the issue. So Mark, we will miss you. Thanks for the service. I hope that you will still be a part of the community even after you roll out of the board. And finally, Anne, we want to wish her well because she has finally got back to Washington, D.C. as the CIO for Department of Energy. And that comes with a certain set of responsibilities. So she had to resign the position from the board. But again, I started working in the public sector through Anne Duncan. She actually brought on board to EPA. So more than being a board member, she has actually brought me into the public sector. So she means a lot to me. So Anne, if you're on the call, we will miss you. I am sure that I will work with you again in DC, but thanks for all your service. And next slide, please. So again, for the people who are interested in being a bit more involved in the organization, I want to give you a bit more idea about how many seats are available and what are the next steps to becoming a board. And as Aaron mentioned, we are a nonprofit. Currently, we have 4 board seats open. And as an organization, we are still building the organization to have more, let's say, paid staff. So a significant portion of the things that we are seeing, to some extent, Jen created a lot of things for us. But at the end of the day, the board had to do the work to make sure that we can be where we are. So if you are interested in getting your hands dirty and to some extent shape the future of the organization, please throw your hat into the ring. And do not second guess, can you be a part of the community? If you believe that you can do something with this idea, please join. Next slide, please. So the process that we are currently thinking about for bringing the new board members is Wednesday of June 9th, you will have the nomination and the application form open. And what you can do is you see a tiny URL there. If you click on that one, you will get to a page where you can submit your name, and you have 2 options there. Either you can self-nominate, or if you believe that there is somebody out there who is good for becoming a board member, you can nominate that person as well. Once the application is closed on June 25th, what we will do is on June 30th, we are planning to host an election event where the nominated candidates can talk about why they want to be a community, and maybe even take questions or from the community on where their thoughts and perspectives are with respect to being a part of this community and being a board of this nonprofit. And finally, once the voting closes on July 2nd, it's 48-hour window, we will announce the board members, and they will start being a part of the board from July of 2021. And one critical point that I realized I missed in this conversation is a board member gets 3 years being a part of the board. So if you get nominated and elected in July of 2021, you have up to 2024 to be a part of the board. So I think my call to the team is, please throw your name in the hat. Do not hesitate. All of us actually got into the ring, learned a lot of things as we are doing it. So do not hesitate on the question that, can I do it? Please join. We will be happy to help you and hold you to go through the process. So please throw your name, or if you know anybody, this is a good opportunity to show that you respect that person to be a part of a community like this. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Robin.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for the awesome overview, Robin. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Jen, and I am super excited to be here today talking about how to become a member. So right now, membership is free. You can sign up using our membership interest form, which will ask you if you'd like to be included in our public member directory, mailing list, and newsletter. And you can also specify the various ways you'd like to be involved with the organization. As a member, you'll have all of the membership benefits that Robin mentioned earlier, as well as the ability to vote on our 4 open board seats at the upcoming member or election event. Let me drop the link to sign up. And like Robin mentioned, we are also planning on having committees. So this is another way you can get involved. So each committee is going to have a board member sponsor and 2 co-chairs responsible for leading the work on the committee. If you're interested in being a co-chair, you can specify so in our membership interest form, which I just shared out. And we're looking for folks who can dedicate a couple hours a month to help with your involvement going until the end of this year. And since we're just starting out, we identified these 5 committees based on community needs, and we expect that we'll probably expand or adjust these as needed and as we grow. One of the things we talked about was potentially adding things like community of practices as well. And so, keep your eye out for that in the future, perhaps. And as you can see here, the 5 committees we have, so we have community and membership, which is going to be responsible for fostering the internal member community. Education will be responsible for things like training, workshops, and resource sharing. Communications will be responsible for managing our newsletter, website, and social media. DEI is going to be responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within the organization and our greater community. And the event committee will be responsible for building the community through external partnerships and events. So depending on your expertise and interest, we hope that you'll consider joining one of these committees. You can also find us on Slack at publicgoodtech.slack.com. We've got 6 channels in there to get the conversation started, but feel free to create others and connect with people in the group. And I'll go ahead and follow up with the invite link for folks to join shortly. And lastly, like Robin mentioned, we're creating an events calendar to keep track of all of the amazing things happening in this community. I don't know about you, but there's so many panels and webinars and workshops related to this field that I'm constantly getting invited to. And so we thought it'd be nice to have a single source of truth of calendar. The idea for this is that it's going to be a community resource where folks can request to add upcoming events to it and reference. So just shoot over an email to us at events@publicgood.tech with the event details, or tag us at publicgoodtech on social media and we'll get it added to the calendar. And now I'm going to hand it over to Melinda, who's going to go through our community activity for the day.
Thanks, Jen. Right, so now that we've heard about the transition of the organization and some of the opportunities to get involved, it's time to do some co-creation. And it is a windy day here in Michigan. Hope my audio is okay. We're going to keep asking the questions. After all the research and the searching that we've been doing, we still want to keep asking the questions about what the needs of this community are and what kind of association would best serve them. And we want to hear from you because you are, in a sense, the inaugural group for this new initiative. So what better place to start in just co-creating what this could become and what each of us could give back to it. So how we're going to do that is we are going to all be sent into small breakout rooms of about 6 to 7 folks. We have such a large, happy group here today, which is awesome. We'll all be in a smaller group. And in each of these groups, use the round robin format where everyone gets a turn. So everyone's voice is heard for each person to introduce themselves and answer these 2 key questions that you see on the screen. As we're building this community to reimagine how power the people who are reimagining how governments are public, what could you give to it and what would you want out of it? Some of these groups will be led by us board members, but there are so many of us that you may find yourself in a room with no board leader representative. And in that case, just choose one person to be point for leading the, keeping the discussion going and then reporting back after we all come back to this room. We'll check in with each group and see what key insights maybe bubbled up, anything that stood out from the discussion that your group had. So I think we have about 10 minutes. And if I'm remembering everything and that's all, you'll soon find yourself sucked magically into a breakout room with some, recording. The caliber of people that are here today and the places that you all are coming from is, it's not only impressive, but also just touching to realize we have people coming from so many different places in public service and helping public service. And the themes that were arising in our group were things around having a center of excellence, like a consolidated place for all of these similar-minded groups and people that are working on things to be able to really robustly support the work with really, really good content and education that's really specific to the experiences that people are having in government, and also gleaning out practitioner knowledge that's often kind of buried and hard to get that that connection going. Those were some themes that rose in our group. What else were people hearing?
Looks like we have a raised hand. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Does that work?
I don't think so here.
Okay, that worked. Hey, my name's Neil. I was in a group with Grace, Ryan, and Melanie who are on the call. And I'd say like the biggest thing that came up in the group is similar to what Melissa had said, where it's just trying to find connections. Like all of us are passionate about this field and have come from pretty similar backgrounds or are participating in similar work right now in their own organizations to what this group is doing. And the challenge is just like learning from, trying to bridge this gap where we can learn from each other so that we can really expand this field or increase the pipeline to get more people involved in these organizations, whether it's this one or in the industry. And really just the biggest thing to offer is our own unique perspectives and seeing just how we can like properly or like smoothly connect it together so that you don't have individuals who, like Melanie noted, just kind of wayfinding. So kind of just don't really know where to go, don't really know what to do, or just kind of trying different things.
Jen, I could add something. Hi, Robin again. It's funny. We had two people who works in DC, so I realized that the world is not that big in some cases. So we had Christina from TTS, we had Martha from US Digital Service, George from VA, and Jeff from Canada. So a couple of things that we had the same thing. What Neil was referring to was the excitement about building community so that we know what we are working on and what are our challenges. And another thing that we talked about is the need for training. And I think Christina brought this up because her expertise is in communications. So when it comes to having a hybrid team, it is always good for others to know what the other part of the team member is thinking. So some kind of certification that helps people to understand how the different members of the group is coming from what direction. So that is one theme that came out. And George mentioned this about looking into the idea of second service, people who has already served in the public sector or as a part of the military, who is already interested in being a part of public good, might be a place where we can identify people who want to be joining the community. So those were the three things that I wrote down from our group. And Jeff mentioned about, and I cannot remember, Jeff stole this from some other place, but he was giving this insight about the idea of software co-ops, where we come together and work on some ideas that everybody want to solve so that we don't have to work about this independently. And Jeff, if you're on the call, please keep the details because I don't want to butcher the idea. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna unmute Catherine. I see your hand is raised, and then I'll have Eric and Lauren go next.
Awesome. I'll be super fast, though I want to plus the co-ops idea. We did not talk about that, but that is brilliant. I believe we were Team Gorilla. And my group was Sid, Colleen, Jennifer, and Andrew, and myself. We had 3 key themes, originally 4, but I merged one together for speed. The first one is make the good path easy. So things related to helping people to succeed, making it easier, and addressing that some folks aren't always set up to succeed in this space. And so I added in a different theme into this broader umbrella of sharing good practice, because so much of making the good path easy relates to being able to point to exemplars. The second thing we talked about was accessibility, and recognizing that often there's a focus on the private sector has always the best answers, and recognizing that when it comes to accessibility, that isn't always the case, and that those in the public sector or in the public good space have a lot of experience building for everyone, not just for a limited market share. And the final thing was something we heard from previous speakers, which is just connections. So doing more networking and connecting with adjacent peers, particularly recognizing that if you're at like a municipal government, you might be completely unaware of what's happening in a state or other region. So wanting to benefit from that. And that's everything from what I believe was Team Gorilla.
Thanks, Catherine. Eric, I'll unmute you right now.
Hey everybody, I think we may have been Team Newt. That seems like a name that was in my head. And apologies in advance to any of my group mates if you're planning on facilitating. We actually didn't appoint anybody, but I did take notes, so I feel like I'm just gonna go for it. So we had in my group was Mary, Seamus, Dane, Walter, myself, and Jen. And I would say some of the big themes were Mary was talking about having a place for best practices speakers, kind of bringing in new, fresh ideas rather than recycling old, or just perhaps, just ideas that we've already heard before in the industry, perhaps. Dan was kind of an interesting example of someone who has a background and then went into law and is now kind of looking for like a way to move his career into public interest technology, but not sure exactly where to start. We had Walter, who's in a DOT, helps run Code for Sacramento, and is, as someone kind of been in this industry for a while, which I could relate to, sees like gaps in best practices and partnerships and things like that. And for myself, I was also showing interest. This kind of, the idea of a professional association is something I've been kind of thinking about in my own head for a while, because I see other industries that have it. And I think like on the slides before, we talked about like IEEE, which is like an example of an industry where, you basically take an oath and you have these sort of best practices that you follow regardless of private, public sector, anywhere, which I feel like would be super beneficial to this sort of blossoming professional movement that started not too long ago in the grand scheme of things. So I'd say like the thing I heard a lot from our group was sort of documentation on like best practices and sort of bringing together best practices and sort of operationalizing that and making it be like a legitimate source of information. And anybody else in the group, feel free to chime in if I missed anything, but I think that's about it.
Thanks, Eric. And then I think we'll have Lauren go next, and then we'll head back to wrap up.
Thank you, Jen. So I'm representing Team Hummingbird. We had a lot of similar points that have already been discussed. So like big +1 to just like connections and community, really just like having that like bond and having people to discuss things with is really important. Second is sharing, is kind of goes along with that, sharing problems, really just like wanting to talk about problems across and like being able to speak across government areas, like state, local, federal. And then also something that was already highlighted in the slideshow was something I brought up, was resources for early career professionals. I'm an early career professional, and definitely seeing more resources would be really nice, to be able to, expand, to move laterally, and not have to have, 10 years and have been around the block. I want to learn from you, so.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to thank you all for being here. I'm the newest board member. I haven't gotten a chance to engage with the community a whole lot since my time on the board, and this has given me so much energy. So I'm just so grateful for every one of you. I wanted to call out for the next, we have about 4 minutes left, and we wanted to offer, if anyone is interested in offering help or asking for help, we'd love for you to post in chat right now so that this community can start to get together and help each other. And then lastly, we want to talk about what's coming next. So like we mentioned, we've got our board applications and nominations due on Friday, June 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And you can also become a member by filling out our membership interest form. We've got our next event in about 3 weeks where we'll have interested board members share a bit about themselves ahead of the voting process. And lastly, you will be able to see a follow-up email from us recapping today's session soon after. So thanks everyone again for coming to the town hall. Does anyone have any last questions or comments? Please feel free to raise your hand or drop them in chat. And we're going to be sticking around for a few more minutes in case you want to continue the discussion. But if you have to drop, please do visit our website at publicgood.tech and become a member. You can also follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn at publicgoodtech. And that's it. Thanks, everybody.